She was scrubbing a billionaire staircase when a single soft note slipped from her lips, and just like that, she was fired.
No warning, no mercy. Silence for singing. But the voice he tried to crush in his mansion, it would rise from a tiny apartment, shake the whole internet, and come back to haunt him on live television. Astros, she didn't even hear him come in. That's the thing about silence, it can sneak up behind you like a shadow. One moment, Amelia was alone in the marble foyer of the Chandler estate. The next, a chill crawled down her spine. But by then, it was too late. The words had already left her lips. The melody already escaped. She had been singing, not loud, not showy, just humming the way she always did when her hands were busy. A soft gospel tune her mother used to sing over boiling greens on Sunday evenings. The kind of song that held sorrow and hope in the same breath. She was on the 7th step of the grand staircase, her scrub brush gliding in rhythm with the beat, when his voice cut through the morning light like a knife. This is a workplace, not a concert hall. She froze. Her heart dropped to her shoes slowly. She turned. At the top of the staircase stood Gregory Chandler, 6'2" of iron suits and empty warmth. Billionaire, CEO, the kind of man who smiled only for cameras and counted people like pennies. His eyes were hard, cold, the kind that didn't see Maid as people, just background noise. Amelia opened her mouth to apologize, but he was already shaking his head. Already done with her. You're done here. Clean your locker. Leave by noon. No discussion. No questions. No chance to explain that singing helped her work faster. That it helped her forget the pain in her knees, the ache in her back. That some days, it was the only thing keeping her soul alive. None of that mattered. She swallowed the lump in her throat, bowed her head, said nothing. Because what do you say when your dignity is stepped on like dirt on a marble floor? She packed in silence. The other staff avoided her gaze. No one asked questions. No one stood up. They all knew how it worked in this house. You kept quiet. You kept your job. By noon, she was gone. No thank you. No severance. Just a wrinkled envelope with her final paycheck and a faint whiff of furniture polish on her coat. She stood at the bus stop on the edge of the city, gripping a plastic bag that held her cleaning gloves, a Bible, and an old pair of sneakers. Her reflection in the glass of the bus shelter looked tired, faded, but her eyes still held the quiet fire. She didn't cry, not on the bus ride home, not when she stepped into her small South Side apartment with the creaky floorboards and peeling paint. Not even when she opened the fridge and found only a bottle of mustard and a half-used bag of rice. She didn't cry, but that night she sang, not for anyone else, just for herself. She stood barefoot in her kitchen, light from the hallway bulb flickering behind her, and sang the same gospel song. Her voice cracked in places. She didn't have the energy to hit every note, but she poured it out anyway. Her fear, her anger, her hope. The music curled through the room like smoke, wrapping around old photos, broken dreams, and unpaid bills. Her neighbors heard it through the walls, but nobody complained. In that part of town, folks knew pain when they heard it, and they knew when someone was trying to survive it. Back in his mansion, Gregory Chandler didn't think of her again. To him, Amelia was just another name on a payroll list. Just another worker who crossed the invisible line between servant and spectacle. He told the story at a boardroom dinner the next night, chuckling as he mimicked her voice. She really thought she was Whitney Houston, he said, fork tapping against his wine glass. Singing in my house like it was the Apollo. They laughed. That laugh echoed across the polished mahogany table, bouncing off men in suits and women in pearls. All too comfortable to question it. No one asked her name. No one asked why she was singing. No one asked what song it was. But the thing about voices, they don't stay buried forever. Out there in the night, somewhere past the chandeliers and security gates, a voice was rising. A voice they tried to silence. A voice they thought didn't matter. And though she didn't know it yet, the world was about to hear it. The silence grew heavier with every passing day. Amelia's small apartment felt tighter now. The cracked tiles in the kitchen, the dripping faucet in the bathroom, the chill that crept through the windows at night, everything pressed in, closing the space around her like a slow fist. She had always lived close to the edge, but losing the job at Chandler Estate pushed her beyond it. The bills came like clockwork. Even though the paycheck didn't, the lights flickered. The fridge hummed emptily. The phone line died one quiet Thursday morning, and she didn't bother to call and plead for more time. She knew they wouldn't listen. Still, each night, after the noise of the day settled into shadows, Amelia sang not for anyone else now, not for joy. She sang because it was the only thing they hadn't taken. Her voice, worn and weary, carried through the chipped walls of the one-bedroom apartment like a prayer nobody asked for. But everyone felt. The neighbors paused when they heard it. Even the rats grew still. Her voice wasn't just music. It was mourning. It was memory. It was something holy in a world that treated her like she was disposable. Across town, laughter filled a dining room lit by crystal chandeliers. Gregory Chandler leaned back in his chair, swirling dark scotch in his glass. The guests, all sharp suits and sharper smiles, leaned in as he told his story again. He added details each time: how she sang without permission, how she didn't know her place. She really believed she had talent, he said, chuckling. Can you imagine? The room laughed with him. Not one person paused to wonder if maybe, just maybe, she did. But someone else was listening. Devin didn't live in a mansion. He didn't wear cufflinks or sip scotch. He lived floors below Amelia and heard her voice almost every night. He used to be a sound tech at a local radio station before the budget cuts came. Now he hustled odd jobs fixing speakers, DJing church events, chasing dreams through static and second-hand equipment. He'd always told Amelia she had a gift, but she'd just shake her head and laugh. A gift don't pay rent, she'd say still. One night, Devin left his phone recording on the kitchen counter while she sang. No mic, no filter, just a flickering bulb, a tired woman, and a voice that cracked the ceiling open. He didn't tell her what he did. He uploaded the clip online with no caption, no hashtags, just a title, Woman Singing in the Dark. Then he went to bed. By morning, the internet was on fire. The video was shared 10,000 times in the first day, 1 million the next. It spread across Facebook timelines, Twitter threads, YouTube reaction videos. People didn't know who she was, but they felt her. The pain in her voice, the grit in her tone, the way her notes trembled but never broke. It reached into people's bones. This voice, it feels like healing. I haven't cried like this in years. Who is she? Comment sections filled with strangers calling her an angel, a miracle, a once-in-a-generation voice. They weren't just listening. They were feeling. Local radio stations played the clip on loop. The national morning shows picked it up. Amelia James, a name nobody knew last week, was now whispered in production meetings. Tweeted by celebrities, requested on every station. Interview requests rolled in, along with offers for performances, interviews, and contracts. But Amelia had none of that figured out. No agent, no stylist, no plan. Just her voice, her heart, and a thrift store dress Devin ironed twice. She stood behind the curtain at the live studio taping of Star Night, knees knocking, palms damp. She hadn't been on a stage since the church revival 3 years ago. Back then, she sang to God and neighbors. Now, she was about to sing to millions. The host's voice boomed through the studio. Next up, a voice you've all heard, a voice that captured the internet. Please welcome Amelia James. The lights hit her like heat. The audience clapped, not polite golf claps, real ones, standing ones. She stepped onto the stage like she was stepping into herself for the first time. Behind the scenes, producers whispered about her story. A maid, fired, silenced, found again. Amelia clutched the mic like a lifeline. Her eyes scanned the room. Her heart beat so loud she thought the mic would catch it. And then, she sang out one note. That's all it took. The room stopped breathing. she didn't perform. She confessed through song. Every note carried pieces of the girl who had been shamed, dismissed, tossed out. She let it all out, the grief, the betrayal, the stubborn hope. Her voice climbed, dipped, cracked open the silence, and filled it with truth. Tears slid down cheeks in the audience. Judges held their breath. And when she finished, silence, then thunder, applause, roars, cheering, people on their feet, grown men crying. The host stepped forward, voice breaking. I think we all just witnessed something divine. Amelia didn't smile. Not yet. She bowed her head, whispered a thank you to the mic, and walked off stage slowly, as if afraid to wake up from whatever dream she was in. Backstage, Devin hugged her so tight she couldn't breathe. They heard you, he whispered. She nodded, but deep down, a thought still lingered. They tried to silence her once. They weren't ready for what came next. Gregory Chandler wasn't really watching. He never did. The TV was just background noise in the evening's flashing lights. An overacted drama playing to an audience of one in a mansion too large to feel like home. He had his scotch in one hand, his phone in the other, and the usual air of importance wrapped around him like a scarf. He scrolled mindlessly through emails, a cigar burning low in the ashtray beside him, deals, shares, quarterly projections. Nothing that made him feel alive, just numbers marching in perfect lines. The TV host's voice buzzed in the distance, announcing another rags to riches story. Another dreamer reaching for the American sky. Chandler rolled his eyes. He'd heard it all before. Another nobody trying to be somebody. Then he heard the voice. It started soft. Just a single note. High, pure, raw. He didn't recognize it at first. He just paused, brow furrowed, scotch forgotten. There was something in that voice, an ache, a defiance, a strength born from suffering. It wasn't polished like the others. It wasn't controlled. It was real. It hurt to hear, but he couldn't turn away. And then he saw her face, lit by the soft glow of the stage lights. Trembling but proud was Amelia. Amelia, the maid he fired without a second thought. The woman who scrubbed his floors. The woman he humiliated in front of the marble staircase, tossed out like she didn't matter. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came. His hand froze midair, scotch trembling in the glass. She stood center stage, wearing a long white dress like she belonged to something sacred. Her hair pulled back, no makeup, no glitter, just truth. The kind that made you sit still and listen. She spoke before she sang, her voice calm, steady. This song is for anyone who's ever been told to be quiet. I was fired for singing, but tonight, I'm singing for the world. The audience erupted, but Chandler didn't hear them. He only heard her. She opened her mouth again, and the world changed. Her voice soared, not like a trained singer, but like someone who had bled for every note. Each lyric felt pulled from her bones, rich with memory, pain, and prayer. Her voice trembled, then grew, then cracked wide open like a storm rolling in slow, unstoppable. Judges sat still, eyes wide. The camera panned over rows of strangers leaning forward in their seats. Phones lit up, tweets flew, hashtags formed, but none of that mattered in that moment, because she was free. Every note she sang was a note they'd tried to take from her. Every word was a slap back at the silence she'd been buried in. Her voice wasn't asking permission. It was reclaiming space. Chandler sat, stunned. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He remembered the way she looked the day he fired her, head bowed, hands trembling, voice quiet. She hadn't argued, hadn't shouted. She just left, and somehow, she turned that silence into this power. He watched her bow, watched the audience leap to their feet, watched the judges stumble over their words, trying to describe something that didn't fit into a soundbite. Then the screen flashed. A headline in bold white letters across the bottom. Fired Maid becomes nation's next star. Chandler lowered the volume slowly. The room around him felt colder now, the walls taller. He leaned back in his leather chair, but it no longer felt like power. It felt like prison. He had told the story of her firing at so many parties, made jokes, gotten laughs. He never imagined she would stand on a national stage, her name on everyone's lips. He never imagined she'd become bigger than the house he threw her out of. And now, he couldn't escape her voice. He tried to go back to his emails, but the screen blurred. He took a sip of scotch, but it didn't warm him. Her song lingered in the air like incense. Like smoke from a fire, he couldn't put out. In the studio, Amelia walked off stage to the sound of roaring applause. But backstage, it was quiet. She sat down slowly, hands still shaking, heart pounding in her chest. Devin ran to her, eyes wide, voice cracking. "You did it." She smiled for the first time that night. Not because she had gone viral, not because of the applause, but because for the first time in her life, she was seen not as a servant, not as background noise, but as a voice that mattered elsewhere. In living rooms and hospital beds and buses and break rooms, people watched her. People who had been dismissed, overlooked, silenced. And something in them stood up when she sang. Gregory Chandler didn't sleep that night. He walked through the halls of his mansion, lights off, her voice echoing in his head. Every room felt too big, too quiet. He stood in the same foyer where she used to scrub the floors. He looked at the grand staircase, and for a second, he could almost hear her hum again. Only now. It haunted him. Because now he knew. He hadn't just fired a maid. He had tried to silence greatness, and the world was listening now. The phones wouldn't stop ringing. From the moment the broadcast ended, Gregory Chandler's office was flooded. Journalists called with questions. Investors sent emails laced with panic. HR demanded a statement. Public relations drafted one for him. But the words tasted like ash in his mouth. "Mr. Chandler, did you knowingly fire Amelia James for singing? Are the allegations true that she was dismissed without cause? Do you regret it now?" He didn't answer any of them. Not at first. He just sat in the same chair where he watched her sing. The same scotch glass still half full on the table beside him. But it didn't warm him. Nothing did now. Her voice was everywhere. On the radio in his car. On every morning show. In coffee shops and elevators and airports. Her name trended globally. Amelia James. Her face smiled from magazine covers. Her voice opened award shows. Her story became a headline, a movement, a symbol. And he was the villain in it. He tried to spin it, of course. Tried to paint it as a misunderstanding. Hired lawyers. Paid PR firms. Released a carefully worded statement about how singing is important. But professionalism matters. But it was too late. The truth had already sung louder than any excuse. The internet never forgets. Meanwhile, Amelia didn't look back. She moved like a woman finally allowed to exhale. Interviews came. She sat on couches beside late-night hosts who once would have overlooked her. Record deals were offered. She turned down the first 5. Not because she was arrogant, but because she wanted control. She wouldn't let anyone else shape her voice again. And she gave back. She started a foundation for girls who had been told to quiet down. She visited schools, built music programs in neighborhoods no one else funded. She walked into rooms where no maids had ever stood as equals. And when asked about Chandler, she never spoke his name. But her silence thundered louder than revenge. The story followed him everywhere. In business meetings, no one looked at him the same. In elevators, people whispered when he stepped in. He was no longer Gregory Chandler, billionaire. He was the man who fired the woman with the voice of an angel. The man who tried to bury something divine beneath his marble floors. Months passed. The world moved forward, but Chandler felt frozen. Like everything he'd built rested on sand. He stopped attending events, canceled interviews. He stayed in the mansion more and more, pacing the same hallway she once cleaned. And always, her voice followed him. In dreams, in memories, in the spaces between silence. And then, he saw her again. It was awards season, the industry's biggest night. He hadn't planned to watch, but some habits are hard to break. He poured a drink, sat alone, turned on the television. And there she was backstage. The camera caught a glimpse of her laughing with a young girl, straightening her collar. Still in white, still glowing, still herself. No glitz, no pretense. Just Amelia. Then something shifted inside him. He wasn't sure what made him do it. Maybe it was the weight of shame finally breaking through. Maybe it was the sound of his own hollow victories echoing too loudly. But he got in the car. No entourage, no announcement, just him, alone. He arrived at the venue's back entrance like a ghost. The security guard blinked twice when he saw him. "You sure you want to go in like this?" The man asked. Chandler just nodded. Backstage was chaos. Assistants, stylists, producers, everyone rushing. And then he saw her, standing near a curtain, about to walk on stage. She was quiet, focused, a woman in full bloom. He approached slowly. She turned. Their eyes met. For a moment, no one moved. Time paused. Then, softly, he spoke. "I didn't see you," he said. "Not who you were. Not who you are." Amelia didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just looked at him, really looked. And he saw it in her eyes. Not hatred, not revenge, just clarity. "That's the thing about power," she said, her voice calm, steady. "It hears noise, but it never listens to music." She didn't wait for his reply, didn't ask for an apology. She turned and walked toward the light, her dress trailing behind her like a flame. Applause erupted beyond the curtain as her name was called. She stepped onto the stage with grace, with dignity. And Chandler? He stood there, alone, a man with everything: money, buildings, titles, and yet, in that moment, nothing that mattered. No one clapped for him. No one called his name. He left the venue in silence, drove home through streets filled with posters of the girl he once fired. He sat on the edge of his bed that night and turned the TV back on. She was mid-performance. A new song. A hymn of forgiveness, of survival, of rising from what tried to destroy you. Her voice was stronger now, fuller, unstoppable. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, he listened, truly listened. Never silence someone just because they shine in places you don't understand. The voice you ignore today might be the one the world can't stop listening to tomorrow. Because in this world, you can buy silence, but you can't silence truth. You can fire someone from your house, but not from their purpose. And when a voice is born to shine, no man, no suit, no power can stop it.